it was like people that saw it were like, you know, they stood up straight. I was even like, uh-oh. You know, I was like, what did I do?
Am I part of the problem?
No, don't mess up. And he like storms out. He comes back.
This is NEXxT Steps. We promote all things fitness and health because we want people to be healthy, happy, and confident. We want to get you on the right track, and we want to do this thing together. Training, nutrition, and overall how you can take your next steps into a healthier lifestyle.
Action. What's up, everybody? I'm Stefanelli with NEXxT Step Fitness, and today we have a sit down with my older brother, Drew Stefanelli. Right now, we are in the dungeon. Since we've grown up our entire lives, we've always had our father working out. We've never known him to not be running anywhere between 3 to 6 miles and on a consistent basis, and also lifting weights heavy. Mm-hmm. And so this is the dungeon. It's his basement. So we're keeping the theme nice and dark down here. So if you're wondering why the lighting is the way it is, my older brother, my better looking, stronger, taller looking older brother, smarter, better beard, everything. Not mustache though. He is currently a strength and conditioning coach at the collegiate level. He works at University of Connecticut, UConn, a lot of great facilities, but he's also been to a lot of other big name places. He's worked at Oregon, he's worked at University of Maryland, he's worked at Nevada, and he also has worked where I'm currently working as a strength and conditioning coach, Our Lady of Good Counsel High School. We're both alums. And we're just gonna dive into the realm of strength and conditioning. Exercise is a very broad term, and strength and conditioning is just one piece of that. So without any further ado, I don't want to steal your thunder, but can you just talk a little bit about, who you are, where you've been, where you've come, just a little bit more?
Yeah. So kind of like you talked about, we were raised in this room. From when we were walking around the weight room as my dad was training.
Is that where we developed our love for each other?
Yeah.
What do you got on your mug, by the way?
It's a good old
Is that
running back. The lighting's a little. Can you see
got
it?
me on your mug?
Yeah, damn right. And you got me on your mug, so brotherly love right there.
I don't play games. Anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, we started down here. I think that's where my passion for strength and conditioning and weightlifting started. Watching our dad just pump iron late at night. Still does it to this day. I don't know why he trains like he's in college still, but keeps him young and keeps the guys scared of him a little bit.
Yeah,
keeps us scared.
A lot of respect there.
So yeah, that's where it kind of started. I think I knew I wanted to be a strength coach when I got to high school. I started in the weight room around 12 or 13. Like my dad kind of almost made us do, but it was more so we wanted to do. But he waited.
You were a little bit more accepting, and
I definitely wanted to be here.
Like,
So went through high school and became a starting fullback my junior year. Went from I think I was a 140-pound freshman. Sophomore year I was 200 pounds. So I gained 60 pounds, and all it was I come down here and lift.
Dude, that was over the span of like 6 months.
Yeah, I'd just lift and I'd eat 2 PB&Js a night with a big glass of milk every night. I mean, I hate PB&Js.
But you also had them in the morning because when they
I guess it was 2 at night, 2 in the morning. So it was really 4 in the morning.
I remember you would wrap them up in the paper towels, and I was allergic to nuts at that time. So like, yeah, man, I should see that. That was crazy.
Yeah, I hated PB&Js for a long time. I just brainwashed myself to eat them. I hated it, but he didn't make me do it. I think he was like, you could eat PB&Js, and I just I need to get bigger, And so I went through high school. Like I said, became starting fullback and had a good career. Especially my junior, senior year, played for a really good team under Bob Malloy, and
arguably one of the best highlight tapes I've ever seen.
Yeah, Stefan Diggs was on that team. Most people know him. I didn't play with Stefan Diggs. He played with me. Let's get that part clear.
He's not my brother. I'm his brother.
Yeah. So during that time, from freshman year all the way through senior year at Good Counsel, I had a strength coach, Skylar Sarr. He was, a huge mentor even before he became my mentor and boss, because I loved the way he trained us and the culture he built with us. And I noticed the difference of who I was when I walked in freshman year to who I was when I walked out sophomore year to junior year to senior year. It helped me build my foundation and, maximize my potential as a high school student and athlete. After that, I went on to play at University of Maryland, played there for 4 years, did 1 year at Temple before that as a freshman, and I transferred to Maryland had a interesting career, but I definitely maximized my potential in the environment I was in and the situation that was provided. And I had great strength coaches then. Drew Wilson was my head strength coach for 3 of those 4 years, and then last year I had Rick Court and his staff come in. During that time, strength was like one of my main reasons I kept playing football, because football was really hard for me. Like I was saying, my situation was a little hard. I was a fullback on a spread offense, a walk-on, didn't get a lot of shots, but the weight room kept me north. Kept me from quitting and all that stuff, which I really wanted to do for a long time. And obviously, my dad mentored me and kept me on the straight and narrow, and it all worked out. My senior year, I became a starter, had a great senior year, put it all out there on the field, and I built great relationships in that time. One of the assistants on that staff on the Rick Court was Mason Baggett, who I built a great relationship with in under a year. So I finished playing, tried, NFL, CFL, nothing really clicked. And I was kind of stuck in, what do I do now? As most of us do when we're done playing, got to find a new identity, new purpose. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go right to coaching my teammates at Maryland. I think I was just like done being in college football for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I do? I want to be a strength coach. And you had worked for SAR in the previous summer, and you had mentioned, you were like, hey, maybe you should just join us, intern for SAR for the summer. I was like, that sounds awesome. I mean, I don't know if SAR likes me, but Perry was like, just text him, had him a long message, what I've been doing and all that, and interested in strength conditioning and working for him. He was like, yeah, sure, join us, kind of. And in that time, it was kind of like, obviously I was there. I was a big, strong guy, kind of quiet, mean-looking dude. Like my natural look is
a little brooding and like,
there's not a lot of expression there, especially when I'm like first starting. And I remember SAR talking about it. It was like the third week, out of nowhere, I just started coaching. Like my voice came out like just like that, and that's when it all clicked. That's when
it's crazy to think about that now, because
I was so raw as a coach, but that was a sign.
I mean, you're like, one of the best coaches I've ever worked with.
I appreciate that. You don't know a lot of coaches then.
I don't. But just try not to get beat up later, honestly.
Right. So like that was kind of where it all started. That 2017 summer, and it just kind of took off. I stayed at GC through COVID until 21, and I really wanted to stay there. At that time, I became one of SAR's assistants, and I was also assisting my dad, who had taken over as a head football coach there. So I was doing special teams for him and coaching strength and conditioning, and I was really bridging that gap, because I was doing the special teams, but then I was being a strength coach in practice. So I was running the warm-ups every day. I was holding guys accountable at practice. So I was able to bridge that gap. We had seen that gap would get lost in translation, going from the way we trained them in the summer to the way the football coaches operated, because we weren't always together. And before my dad took over, there was an older staff, and they had a little more trouble keeping the finger on the nail, or thumb on the nail with the players. So I was able to help bridge that gap for our staff. Excuse me. And at some point, I wanted to be at the college level. I just didn't know how to do it and what I'd have to do. And I stayed in touch with Mason Baggett, who was still at Maryland when I was at GC. Because of the way the NCAA is, you can't, as a high school strength coach, I wasn't able to intern at Maryland if they were recruiting our guys at Good Counsel. So I had to go somewhere else or wait 2 years, like stay out of GC for 2 years. I don't know if the rules changed a little bit, but that was the rule then. So I just stayed in touch with Mason over the years. And then in 21, he went to Oregon, and he was like, hey, we got a good gig over here. If you want to come over and intern, we can work some things out. And he was able to, with him and Jeff Eden, who was my intern coordinator, they were able to provide housing for me and eventually give me a paid internship there. So they really looked out. And so I went over to Oregon. A great time there. I was there from May 21.
6 months or something.
Yeah, until the end of 21. Like we finished our bowl game at the Alamo Bowl.
And their staff left, right? Went to Miami at that time.
Yeah, the head strength coach took one of the assistants with him to Miami. Under the head football coach that was at Oregon went to Miami. Mason Baggett got a job at University of Nevada in Reno. Wanted to take me with him, but he didn't have any openings.
That's when you came back here.
Came back to Maryland to intern under Ryan Davis and his staff as a paid intern, and I did that from January 22.
It's like another 6 months.
Yeah. In May, we went to a conference, the CSCCA conference that was in Oklahoma City that year. And at the conference, Mason offered me a job to work for him at University of Nevada. That offer didn't actually get put in the paper until end of July. I signed the paper, and me and my girlfriend drove out from Maryland out to Reno, did a cross country trip, and got out to Nevada. I was a assistant with football, and on paper I was split. I was half Olympic, half football, but it was really 75% football, 25% Olympic. The Olympic strength coach and Mason, the football strength coach, worked out an agreement that was how they were going to do it. So I really only worked with softball and football the majority of the time. And I had a great situation, loved those softball girls. It was awesome to be able to train a team that wasn't football, that was my team. And it was even better. And I'll tell this to anyone, it's the best thing if you want to be a football strength coach is coach other athletes. Because if you can coach other athletes, let alone, male versus female, if you can coach women athletes when you've been a male athlete coach, you're a really good coach.
You just get these different.
If you can kind of fluctuate with the personalities you have and the different environments, it makes you really good at coaching. It's that communication skill, just ability to work with different people. It's a great personal and professional development thing to have. So I was at Nevada up until I started there in July 22. That staff got fired.
Yeah, how you got picked up was crazy.
So that staff got fired in the past winter, really December of 23. I was technically, because of my title that I was previously talking about at Nevada, I was being kept on the Olympic side because I was technically employed there by the Olympic side, even though I did more football. On paper, I was kind of untouchable. And at the moment, I was going to stay. The new staff was coming in. I seemed to get along with the new staff that was coming into Nevada. And then I flew home for the break back to Maryland, and a couple of coaches reached out to me. Tyson Brown, who's my boss now at UConn, he followed me, DM'd me, and it was like, hey, took the job at UConn. Love your stuff on your page. If you're interested, send me your resume. And I was like...
And your page was just...
I didn't know who Tyson was. I was like, who is this? This guy just followed me. I was like, cool, I'll follow him back. And I didn't know anything about him. He had been at Washington State for, I think it was 4 years, and then Mississippi State for 3 years as a head guy. So that's 7 years. I think he was 6 or 7. I get the numbers confused, but he had been a head guy for a long time. I just didn't know of him. And for him to reach out like that was
your
huge.
page, and you really enjoy working with him, and I know you've told me, and he found your strength page, and it's mostly just you lifting weights and stuff like that, right? It's a really fun page to watch. So I kind of would just want to say, just like for younger people, like a little side comment, like Instagram, YouTube, it's actually like almost like the new style of resume.
Yeah.
Like that was like a perfect example. I was like, dude, like if you're young, like even if you're not that good or know something, like just put stuff out, like somebody might find you.
So the exact, specifically for that, Tyson had sent me that, and my resume wasn't updated. Like I had my most recent place, which was in Nevada, but I didn't have every single thing on the resume yet. He was kind of like, just send it over. Like he already knew my network and people to talk to, and had seen what I could do in the weight room. And that was kind of like what you were talking about. That was kind of like my foot in the door. Yeah. My resume didn't really matter.
Wow.
And that's, well, when we talked, he wasn't like, oh, you've been here. It was more so just like, talk to me about yourself. I already got enough based on your page. The
you're
weights,
trying to vet to see if you like the personalities.
At the end of the day, the weights don't move themselves. But I think you're bringing a good point for YouTubing, Instagram, even and X or whatever, tweeting on X, however you say it nowadays. Yeah. You can use that to your advantage. I know a lot of strength coaches that are trying to get more recognition, and they don't know how. I got this one guy that has interned with me at other places, interned for us at Nevada, and he's kind of between positions. And I was like, dude, look at your page. You go on your page, there's like, you have like 6 posts on there, and 4 of those 6 are from 2020 or before. Like that's 4 years ago now. You need to add to it.
You didn't start yours to get a
No,
job.
I started mine right around Clean December time, which we'll talk about the shirt. I think I started my page in 2018 when I started this program, and it kind of took off over the years. I mean, I was you should see the video footage that I have from 2018.
You haven't deleted anything, right?
No, and I should, because I have like 4,000.
I don't know. I like that though. You can see
it was
where
like
it started.
the camera was here, so all you could see was this part of my body. You couldn't see my face. So you couldn't even see what I was lifting. You know what I mean? And it was just like music was off, the angles were off, and like now I always have the camera position. I know that it needs to be around my belly button height to like I like it to be lower, like angled or kind of like waist level. I just think it's the best angle for me, but some people get closer, some people get further, and you just kind of have to experience with it. And most of us get, because we're all about likes and validation. So it's like, oh, I only got 12 likes, I should stop posting, I'm not worthy. But it's like, you got 12 likes and you have 30 followers. So like, what do you expect? You expect to go viral off that? You can't, but you keep building it. And, if you're smart with your content and strategic, you'll build a bunch of content before you even post it. Because the one thing you see on Instagram is it's your story, right? You can post stuff that day or it could be 2 weeks ago. But like the only people that are really going to know are the people that saw you training in that moment, or people that you talked to and were like, yeah, I just hit a PR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can post a PR like it happened yesterday and it was from months ago.
Right.
Obviously if I post something from Nevada now, that I have Yukon videos, it's kind of like,
you gotta at least be
kind of acknowledge
throwback, you know what I mean?
Or if like I had like really long hair and then shaved my head like this, and be like, but you also see people on their pages, they have like different hairstyles, right? Or like they'll dye their hair, but they'll post like kind of in non-chronological order, so you can't really tell, is this old, new?
Right.
It's just content. So yeah, I think it's building that content and just being able to be yourself, and then finding that niche. Like I found a couple niches when I was with Mason Baggett. We were doing guys being dudes, which took off for a lot of ways. Guys loved it. Was coaches, it was athletes. They just loved our goofing off and then hitting crazy weight. And if we were mic'd up like this, you would get even more. We were getting content like you were hearing the slang we were using, or the jokes we were making behind music and the metal, the plates clanking and stuff. Versus if you had it mic'd up, it'd be a lot more. You'd hear a lot more. Yeah. And that's kind of the next step eventually, if we ever get back to it. But now I've transitioned to like, I do the feed the spine, feed the legs. And that's just like, I think it's one of those things where you put something like that and it grabs people's attention, right?
Which is very important. I mean, I've learned that even as a teacher, it feels like it's my obligation to entertain. If people aren't listening,
but you're like, you
got to grab people's attention.
If you post something and you're like, if you were to see it and you're like, this isn't entertaining enough for me, why would it be entertaining for the next person, right? So like, well, you have to think about like, would I swipe up? If I saw this, would I just swipe past it? Or I'd be like, what does feed the spine mean? Oh my God, he's literally throwing the bar back to his spine, doing behind neck jerks and then receiving it, and God knows it hurts. But I gotta feed it, keeps you young, keeps the ego full. Strength coach's purpose, facilitate the culture, the atmosphere of a team, regardless of what team it is. Besides beyond the X's and O's of get them stronger, faster, and more powerful, and more conditioned. It's to be the mold of the team. I think going from high school to college level, you see your strength coaches more than anyone else. The football staff is going like this time during July. The football staff is all away. This is like their break time. They come back in August and bullets are flying. Camp starts,
which is it's a time.
Yeah, sports besides football and basketball.
And why do they group? So we do that. I work at Our Lady Good Counsel High School. We do that as well. Like we have football workouts, and then we as you were there before, like we do the limits. Just we categorize it that like, why do we do that?
I'm pretty sure, I don't even know really, but I think it all stemmed from football always had their own facility, always on a different schedule, and the Olympic sports were on a different one, and there were smaller teams. Because you can't fit. The biggest Olympic sport team would be baseball, probably, maybe a rowing team if they have multiple tiers. You're still looking at 60 to 80, even if it's a big number, versus football is 100 is if it's not including it. Like your smallest football team will be after the season before transfers and incoming freshmen come in, which is going to be like
at the college level.
Yeah, which is still going to be around 100, maybe high 90s. And if you're below 90, then your team's probably going under. So
yeah,
I think that's why it's that way. But I think pretty recent in recent years, football and basketball have become removed from Olympics, so they're separate from everyone else. And the cool thing is every school does it differently, right? So there's places where basketball has their own facility, no one can use it but basketball, and football will have their own facility, no one can use it. And then there's other places where basketball might have their own facility, but other teams can use the facility. For instance, at UConn, I think we have like 5 weight rooms. Some of them are older, less used, or less accessible. And the second biggest team besides football would be baseball. And baseball will come in and train in the football weight room. They do it because of space, and it's cool to be in the football weight room because there's weights there.
Probably more bells and whistles, more toys, and
it's cooler to be in the football weight room, I think. And that's as you get to higher levels, it's really the depth is what separates teams, right? Because you go to the group of 5 versus Power 5 or Power 4, I guess now. You take UConn or a school like Buffalo versus like Virginia Tech, if we're on the East Coast, right? Virginia Tech is ACC, so they're group of 4. Buffalo is in the.
I don't know. I'm terrible. I'm so bad.
No, wait, they're in the
worst.
American Conference, aren't they? I think they're American Conference. I should know this, but that's group of 5. And you can't really, you could say that Virginia Tech's better than Buffalo, but really, if you look on paper, they have 3 to 5 stars. Maybe Virginia Tech might have a couple more, but they're going to have great players. Like we coach great players that are both at Virginia Tech and Buffalo, and I can't really say which one's better.
Like they were at UConn and now they.
No, I'm saying coach at Good Counsel. We have Kate Herman, who's at Virginia Tech, and then
you got
George Wallow and Jalen McNair, both at Buffalo.
Right.
And all great athletes. And, when you compare those teams, what you really see is the Virginia Tech team might have just a little more depth of good players versus that Buffalo team might have, let's say the D-backs, they might have 4 standout D-backs. Like they're all their starters. Their 2 corners and 2 safeties are ballers, right? And then they might have 1 good safety there and then maybe a young guy as another 2 deep safety who's not really ready versus you compare it to Virginia Tech, they might have 3 deep of experienced guys. But it's kind of a whirlwind nowadays with the transfer portal because you might be 3 deep, but those 2 guys that are backups are trying to leave, after the season, and you can always replace them, but now you're replacing with either young guys or guys that are new to the system. So it's as you progress up each level from high school to college, each tier of it, right? So like Power 4 to Group of 5 to FCS to D2, D3. There's still great football players at all levels. Right. It's just a level, like how many great players are on that field at a time. And then you see that number, the margin of error significantly decrease once you get to the NFL. All of them are phenomenal athletes. We were talking about this yesterday. It's like the margin of error doesn't become physical or talent or potential. It's your mental capacity or emotional capacity to withstand adversity. And that's where we have guys, for instance, we have guys at UConn that haven't maximized their potential. They are like Group of 5 or Power 5, Power 4 Power 4 caliber athletes. Like physically, we have some guys that are SEC built. Like they should be at Alabama the way they're built, but their mental capacity is they're at UConn for a reason. Not that UConn's terrible or anything, but it's like you physically could be here, but you're not because mentally or emotionally you're not there yet.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean that kid can't learn and figure it out and transfer to a bigger school or graduate from UConn and go play in the NFL for 15 years. It happens, but it has to click for that player.
But you made me think, I want to talk, you made me think about, there are certain situations where, there are really great athletes in high school and they fall into different categories, right? Like you're saying that if you meet the mold of Division I, once you're in that mold, then there's like sub molds.
Mhm.
Is basically what you're saying, right?
There's just more tiers to it. But like, yeah, if you're a offensive lineman and you're not cracking 6'1", like even 6'2" is like pretty short for an offensive lineman to get to the high level. But like, say you're barely cracking 6'1", I mean, you might get lucky, and that's a lot of what it is. It's luck. I was lucky to get to UConn when I did. I could have stayed in Nevada, but I got lucky with Coach Tyson Brown just hit me up on Instagram. You know, I was lucky that he reached out to me. I had another guy reach out to me and didn't work out, and I got lucky there. I could have gotten unlucky, and it's all like chance. You know, you're just hopefully if you're lucky, you get lucky with the opportunity, you're prepared or you're willing to work for it, right? I got lucky when I was playing at Good Counsel to be at a school that was so high caliber with Stephon Diggs going through there, Jelani Jenkins, Mike Medeiros, Kendall Fuller, Wes Brown. They was highly recruited
and many
guys.
of them who don't like the world doesn't know, but we had some other just dudes.
We had great players, and they were nationally ranked. We were always nationally ranked. And I was just, you know, a second tier kind of guy. I mean, I was a 5'9" fullback, which is a position that isn't used anymore. And if it is, it's more of a H-back. You know, they can do a lot more. And I was more of a hit you in the mouth. You know, but that's like in that situation. If I was being recruited 20 years ago, I would have gotten a lot more looks. You know, because the fullback was needed more and size. I was lucky enough that fullback's not really important for height. Like they want a 6'2" fullback because you can just do more with them.
Yeah.
But they'll take one that's closer to 5'10", whatever.
Which is not always a bad thing, especially like back then when you had to do full-on collisions. Like when you just have that little bit of, you can get under their chin a little bit more. And
I had the best leverage on the field. There was no one getting lower at me. And then that's why my teammates hated me. So to that point, though, it's like I got lucky to be able to get recruited by Temple, by Maryland, by Towson, those schools, and ending up there where I could have ended up at D2. I was getting heavily recruited by D2 schools and could have easily gone there. Even our dad was kind of pushing towards, you know, you probably get more money at a D2, you probably play more.
Yeah,
and, you know, that was, at the end of the day, that was what I had to work through and grind through, is that the politics of being a walk-on and being a fullback and not really getting my shot until my senior year. And that really took a coaching change for that to happen. I could have gone to, I mean, McDaniel, where you went. That Coach Daly, right? Daly was like, he was like, you could come here and play both ways. I'm like, that sounds awesome, but I love football, but I don't know if I loved, like, if that my desire to play was more important than my desire to play at a high level.
Right.
You know, and I wanted to be a Division I football
basically,
player.
you have to end up picking your consequences.
Yeah. Some guys are going to be in that perfect situation where you're a linebacker and you're 6'3" and 220 and physically you have it all. You don't really have those restraints necessarily, but you take a guy that's 6'1" versus 6'3", both playing linebacker. The 6'1" guy works a little harder. He knows what he's up against. The 6'3" guy is more talented, but you get to when in high school, the 6'3" guy is probably playing all through talent. Not always, but usually he has a little more talent. He can get away with it. The 6'1" guy has grinded through it a little more. He gets a little less attention, a little more of a chip on his shoulder. When they get to college, sometimes that 6'1" guy takes over the 6'3" guy because 6'3" guy has been talent all the way through and doesn't realize that he has to work with his talent now. The 6'1" guy has known what he's been up against, and he's used to the battle because
it's funny because, like, in a way, you're kind of debunking this myth. If you just work really hard at something, you know, you can accomplish whatever you want. It's like, okay, yes, but within parameters.
Yeah.
And it's like,
you got to be realistic.
Yeah, like, where do you fit? And then once you figure out where you fit, and I think that's, you know, I think that's a level of maturity for all people, is like, whether you're male, female, it's like, well, what do you want? And then can you be at peace? And like, being at peace, I think in a lot of ways, like, it's a choice.
Yeah.
You have to be at peace with the consequences that might come, and then the results that might come and the rewards. And you've probably met people that didn't play at a very high level in a sport, but then they end up coaching at a very high level. So their appreciation for the sport and their knowledge probably accelerates.
Yeah, and they don't use it as a disadvantage. They use it to their advantage. It's like, take someone like you. You're obviously shorter. You said you're 5'4", or whatever. I'll give you 5'5".
Wink, wink. On a good day.
6
Today's
foot
a good day. I angled these benches so that him and I are the same height.
Yeah. But like, you know that you're short. People are always going to use that to bust your balls about it, right? They're always going to be like, "Oh, you're a midget," and it still burns. Like, to some extent, it will still burn, but like, your level of confidence or your ability not to use it against yourself is a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
So like,
which is something I
mean,
had
you
to
grew up
learn
doing
to
that,
do. Yeah.
and you're one of the best, because I tell people this all the time. Like, I've worked with people that are close to your height, but they seem shorter. You don't walk around like you're 5'3". You walk around like you're 6 foot. The players tell me that all the time. They're like, I've had female athletes, male athletes that are shorter, taller, all of it, not really know how tall I am, and I'm like, I don't know, how tall am I? Yeah. When they ask me, because I'm not going to divulge that.
I actually have I teach fitness and health classes, and in those classes they're primarily like 14 and 15 years old, and all the time like they'll stand like, Coach Perry, I didn't even know you were this short, and every single time they do that to me, I think about like what you started to say that as we got older. It was like, yeah, like I never really pictured you as, because you learn to carry myself.
We were taught that from Dad. Dad was always like, it's like your presence, it's your confidence, and how you carry yourself. Like, height is just a number. Like, people that brag about being 6'2" are usually like still wear mediums, and it's like, cool, man, I'll throw you through a wall. Congrats, you can reach higher, you can see higher than me. Like, I don't care.
Until you have to barbell back squat with somebody who's shorter than you. That sucks. Dude,
that's the one thing, and it's probably a good limiter for me right now. So we have, all, J hooks on the rack are slightly different, like by a couple centimeters or inches. In terms of like putting it at 17 on this one versus putting on a 17 on another one might be slightly higher. Put mine slightly lower now because I do not want to get caught trying to rack it. Better safe than sorry. But what I've done since I really got to the college level, because usually the guys are throwing weights that I can do. Yeah. And I like,
you're talking about the athletes themselves.
Yeah, I like humbling them and stepping in and just hitting the rep. Casual, like cold. It hurts, but I don't act like it hurts. I think it's kind of good right now.
Smiling.
Yeah.
Crying on the inside. Hiding real tears.
Like at UConn, a lot of the times, like when guys are squatting, I'm like, damn, he's got 4 plates on there. I might do that, because at Nevada I would do it. One time the guys were squatting 4, and they were kind of like acting like it was hard, and I walked it. I took the 4 plates out, walked it out, took my arms off, and hit it twice.
Oh my gosh!
And they were just like, they were so upset.
Hold on, but realistically, something that I've noticed, being a male and then working with males, especially young males, how important is it, do you think, to show your fangs at some point, but where is that place? And I guess I'm asking, why do you do stuff like that? What is the positive result that you see in your athletes when you do stuff like you jump in with them, you're doing the workout with them, you show them, like, it's like the same thing, like when your older brother or your older cousin or whatever, they tease you. And I just feel like for males, it can be really healthy, actually.
I think it's healthy for males and females, just to different extents. Like, when I was in Nevada, I worked with the softball team, and was an awesome experience. Loved those girls, loved working with them. And I think they loved working with me, aside from me being, the way I am sometimes.
Because with females, sometimes you have to show them, you have to help them feel the pain.
Yeah. And that it's okay to push past it. And, you're not going to turn into me.
Exactly.
So like, I would demo stuff in the weight room. I'd put 3 plates on for bench, because, for guys, they're like, oh, 2 plates is cool. When I rip out 3 plates and I'm doing it for reps, guys are like, yeah, I could do that. And they get upset, and they'll remember it. Right. They'll burn in their head. Like when I did it to the girls, they were just like, well, like, we're never going to do that. Right. So it's a little less translation, but it is also like, when you explain to them, it's relative. Like, I'm struggling to do this. This is like you trying to do 1 plate. For you shouldn't. If you can do 3 plates, you're an animal, and you're probably not a softball player in this case. Or, I mean, really any athlete that's going to be able to, as a woman, be able to do 315 on bench, probably say have to be
It's definitely
thrower,
less likely.
like a track and field
dude,
girl.
they're out there.
Oh, they are.
I mean,
And they're strong.
I just recently benched 315.
Mhm.
I'm 28. I've been training since I was 13, and I was stuck at 295 for 2 years.
Forever, yeah.
Like I was training like 4 to 5 days a week, strength training. Like and like I'm eating the right things, and it just. And then when I finally hit it, I was with the kids. I decided to hop in with their lift and test with them, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Ended up hitting 300, and then I ended up hitting 305, and then I ended up failing 310 in 2 years. But then all of a sudden, you don't just hit the 300.
Yeah.
You hit the 305, and it's like
once you get past a certain, it's a crazy thing. It was like I remember I hit 300 like it was back in high school, like it was nothing. Put 305 on, got stapled. But it was because 300 was such a big number then, you know. And it's like when I hit 600 for the first time on my back squat, and because it was like a psychological trip, because I had tried it like 2 or 3 times before, pulled my quad doing it, and I was like, I was definitely doing something wrong mechanically in my squat, but my confidence was off. But it was like 600 was such a big number to me. I couldn't put 605 on there. And when I finally hit it at Oregon, it was Squattober. My guy Mason Baggett spotted me. I actually had two other guys spotting me.
he's a beast.
And Cody were spotting. Yeah, he's an animal. And you know, he was talking me through it. And it's cues I use to guys. You know, walk the bar out strong. You know, like you're walking out like a man.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be scared. You can't be scared now. The bar's on your back.
Right.
Strong walkout. Big brace or big breath, big brace, and drive out of the hole. You know, it's like simple, but it's like do those 3 things or those four or 5 things. You're gonna smoke the weight.
Yeah.
You know, this thing is gonna control if you can do it or not. With the most part, I mean, if you put 600 on, like, and your max is 480, like you're not gonna hit 600 no matter what you do.
Right.
You know, but the difference between you at 480 and 495 is 5 plates.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be more psychological. When I finally hit 600, I smoked it like it was nothing. Bag was like, you need to go up. I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna stay there because I'm gonna end on a win because it was a huge victory for me, and that was in I think it was the fall of 21. By the fall of 22, I was already hitting 635. You know, and it wasn't like I was squatting. I mean, that's 35 pound difference, but when you're talking about in the 600s, 35 pounds is like a 50 pound to 80 pound jump. It's a huge jump.
Right.
You know,
because you're closer and closer to your body's potential.
Yeah. And you got to go to a dark place. I know Sard always talked about go to that dark place. I remember asking Bag because he's a squat god. You know, he just does it like, and it's like, I'm like, dude, how are you? You're 40 and you're pushing weight that 20-year-olds will never be able to hit, and they're stronger than you. You know, how is this possible? And he was like, I think about the worst things that could happen to my life, my family. You know, seeing straight red. Like I haven't really tapped into it when in a fight or flight, unless it's, you know, in controlled setting like football. I'd love to be able to do it in wrestling or jiu-jitsu or MMA. That would be the like close quarters to be able to do it and not be, you know, out on the streets doing it, which thank God for sports. But I try to tap into that when I'm lifting, especially when I'm squatting, right? Because like I don't want to have any. I can't have. You can't
be half in, half out.
No, you got to be all in.
Because you could get hurt.
Oh yeah.
You have everything, but then you slip at a very vulnerable spot, and then you tweak something. And I think
you lose focus. You let doubt slip in. I mean, it's that little bit of doubt. You know, it's like, it's really hard to like put into words for some people, but you have to manifest it in how you train and everything. So I've gotten to it was pretty easy for me to do with squatting. And I actually started doing it more when I cleaned, not in my pool off the bar, like off the ground or off a block, snap onto the bar. It was like, I have to be so nasty getting onto this bar. It's so fast, smash this weight, you know, and really hit this, like you're like, you don't zone out, but you're in a different zone. You're in a different like dimension in that dark place we saw we talk about, or people, you know, just go to the edge. I call it the edge, you know, because it's like, go right to the edge, and if you fall.
Sometimes, and I think I picked it up. Nobody taught me this. I think I caught it from some of the stuff that you would do, and then even being around Sar and other people. Sometimes I turn the music off just to hit a 1 rep nasty set, and it's not all the time, but it's just like who cares? Like the other day we had the football team working out, and they were going to do some pause squats, and they wanted, they were like, Coach, we're going to need some anger. I was like, nah, we got some white girl Wednesday today. We were going to go wrestle after they lifted, do something fun, roll the mats out, whatever. And I said, hey, listen, one more person complains about the music or has something to say about it, I'm going to go whoop your ass in that room for the next 45 minutes. And I'm dead serious. And they shut up or whatever. So we're listening to like Katy Perry. We're listening to Kesha, just in it, like get into a dark place, which means that they can, like, anybody can really trick their mind and like.
It's really, it's a way you train yourself to do it, right? I mean, you look at the highest like trained individuals. It's Navy SEALs, you know, those Marine or higher level Marines. What is that called? I mean, you got the SEALs, but it's what's that top tier of like Marines? Is it MSAC? No, MSOC.
Yeah, I don't know.
And we should because
I don't know those.
Thank God for veterans and people that serve.
That's facts.
But those people, they are able to tap into it, and like you think about their training is all physical strain or adversity, but it's really to distract you, right? They do things to distract you in that setting. They make things harder than they're going to be. But can you stay dialed in that moment
Stay calm,
when the variables are changing, right? Like that's a big thing with training. If you can tap into that with training, and there's some ways you can microdose it with your athletes, whether it's football, baseball, softball, lacrosse, it doesn't really matter because all sports are going to have adversity in them, right? And the best athletes are the ones that overcome adversity and keep moving forward. If you can splash that into their training somehow by throwing them a curveball, right? Hey, you guys like angry music? Today we're going to play some stuff to get you out of your comfort zone. Who are you going to be out of your comfort zone, right? Because everyone's a dog until they get tired. You know, like that's the truth.
Fatigue makes a coward of us all. Coach Daly, you mentioned before, like that he used to say that all the time.
And if you can, now you don't always want to add in those like added stimulus to because you want them to
not
succeed.
In all scenarios.
Yeah, but like there is times where you want to throw that in there. You know, they've had music and they're kind of you know, getting lackadaisical or like more worried about the music than no music. You know, you guys got to earn it, or vice versa. You guys have been doing well. We're going to add music. You guys aren't acting right now because you got music. You guys are thinking you're hot stuff. Yeah, we're going to cut the music off again.
Because you talked about, like, yes, a strength and conditioning coach is, you know, training people for durability. They're training them for speed and agility, explosiveness, power, all that stuff. But then there's that other component too, where like what you were just talking about is like, there are times where you're actually training their mental capacity, and you know you don't always do it, but there should be. Would you say that like all athletes need a little bit of that in their training, just so they can learn how to stay calm, stay focused, even though bullets are flying? Like, is that what you would say?
Yeah, I mean, and that's like the whole thing about being a facilitator, right? You're like facilitating.
As a coach.
Yeah, to get them into that environment where you are trying to maximize their potential and have them peak at the right time and all that stuff, the scientific stuff. But like that kind of goes all out the window when you get on the field and bullets are flying, right?
So how important is it as a coach, like communication skills?
Very important.
Like,
but not
like in what way? Like because you always hear people gotta have good communication skills. It's like, but like in what way? Because it's a very, you know, people just like, you can go get certifications, study a textbook, and that stuff is very important. You have to have that, but then you can't translate it. So like, what is like some things like you've seen or done that?
I think it's, and this is with football, and I think football is special in this way because, and this is kind of going back to guys being around the athletes, seeing you do it or seeing you perform or whatever, builds that respect and rapport with them. That's a communication in like what you do and how you carry yourself.
What they're seeing you do.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it's really hard for somebody. It's not impossible, but it's really hard for someone that never played football to do that.
As a coach?
As a coach.
Oh, okay.
Now
you can do
some people definitely have the ability to talk to the whole room, or whether it's one athlete, 5 athletes, or 30 athletes at a time. And they can gauge the whole room and they can run it and they can have confidence and whatnot. And that's where I think you're getting into the niche of building a team, building a culture, creating this environment and this is common in the military, is like they call shared suffering, right? Like you build camaraderie with your brothers when you guys grind and
When
go
you're
through
doing
something, when
something
you're all
together.
struggling, when you all want to quit, and you guys join arms and still fail, but you made it through. You know what I mean? And it's like that's that brotherhood.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing you'll never. It's changed in a lot of ways with the transfer portal, and it's been that way with like how recruiting's gotten so dilute or overstimulated, I guess. But when you look at like great teams, they have that.
Right.
They've suffered together.
Yeah.
They've locked arms. Their guys are. You have your leaders, and you got the rest of the team that follows, right? And like their best teams have great leaders and great fellowship. You know, like and creating an environment like that is really hard for people that haven't been through it or seen it or done it. It's not impossible. That's where like a lot of coaches they start worrying about too much of the X's and O's of the science stuff, right? How are we training them? And you're worried about training them versus like these guys you're training them to be peak performance, but they're not peak football players. They're not peaking in leading each other and accountability.
Everybody looks good until you get hit in the mouth. Like the first, play of the game sets the tone. Like all that rah-rah stuff that you see like at the college level, and cool traditions. You know what I mean? But once the bullets start flying, like who your real self reveal, like it comes out.
And that's why you'll still see the less athletic dude beat out the more athletic guy, even at the college level, at the high level. We have a dude at UConn now. He just started GAing for us. He was at Mississippi State with our defensive coordinator Tyson Brown. Like he came with them. He just finished playing in I think this past season was his last year. He went all SEC, big white dude, linebacker, and he led the nation in tackles or led the SEC in tackles. And he's like slow, doesn't look athletic. He's just a Southern boy, but when he's on the field, he's nails. Like he's just a different breed. And he's beating out guys that are SEC linebackers that run 4.3s and he's like probably like a 5.0 linebacker. Like he's one of those guys.
Making up for that, like with his mentality, but also like maybe his preparation work. Maybe he watches.
But that's football, because your physical ability only takes you so far, no matter how far you go, and that's why you see the bigger difference between, like guys that are really athletic and they get it, and then they excel at the NFL, and then guys that never got it but have been gifted, they can go through college and even get to the NFL. And like kind of linger, but they're not maximized. Because they just don't have the mental capacity. But I think strength coaches have a huge thumb on that if they know what they're doing, and if they have football coaches that help facilitate it. But at the college level, what you don't see at the high school level, and it was a great thing to see when I transitioned from high school to college, is technology, the analytics, sports science is like huge now, or it has been. It's been growing and it's continuing to grow. We're worried about GPS, like how fast the guys are running miles per hour, their flying numbers. They wear devices called Catapult that measures their player load, their miles per hour, their accelerations, all this, which is cool.
Yeah.
Right. It's great. It's great to have those technology. We do velocity-based stuff where it's tracked with the camera or the 3D camera or whatever. And all that's awesome, right? Because you have that guy that's hitting 22 miles per hour, which is amazing, right? He's smoking.
Yeah.
But he gets on the field and he gets actually slapped across the face repeatedly on national television, and he becomes, he whimpers around and he's given up, and it's the first quarter, and we're still putting him out there, and he's getting beat, like he's just taking it, right? And that's where the physical performance doesn't outweigh how you train them, and the culture and the accountability you build with them. And like, so back to the whole, it takes a certain guy to be able to do that. Skylar Sarr is a great example of that, because he was doing that when we were playing. He didn't play. What did he play in? Did he play football in high school? I think he stopped in high school, right?
I don't know if he played football. I have to ask him. I know he wrestled.
He
did cross country, like when he first got there,
which is weird.
That's crazy.
Lucky him, he can run that far.
Yeah,
I'm tapping after a mile.
He literally he loves. He says like I walked down. I was like at a track event. I was like, man, I can't. I really respect the like long distance running, but I can't like sit there and watch it. And he was like, oh no, I love it. He's like, I love watching them come in on like their last like lap or two.
They're just broken.
And you
They're
just
still
know,
going.
yeah, and they're just stoned, like locked in, like they're just
Which
still.
is crazy because you don't want to give cross country the credit of being.
I know, like
so you guys are athletes, and then you try to run with them, and it's
like they're stones, man.
But so back to the way Sar ran the room, I remember this as a player and as a coach, and I modeled a lot off of him because he didn't have the respect. He wasn't the strongest guy. He wasn't the biggest dude in the room. That's where I get a lot of respect because I'm one of the biggest guys, and I'm also moving weight that most people can't.
Yeah.
So I can flex that on people.
Right.
But he didn't have that, but he had this, what I would call, had shit to him, a little bit of shit to him, right?
Yeah.
So where it was like, if he bucked at you, he scolds you with the eyes.
The eyes of the head tilt.
As a young kid, you're like, oh my,
like you're not totally sure,
because you're like,
this dude will probably.
I could probably beat him up because I'm a 220, let's say 17-year-old, and he's about 190, and he's probably close to 30. I'm younger than him, but he has this look in his eye like he's willing to go there.
And you're processing that so quickly.
And like I'm a person that's like, I like that look. I want to go against someone like that. But other people are like all talk, and then they see it and they're like, and they back off.
Right.
But that's a type of energy people have. A few people, I don't think a lot of people really have that and have a good thumb on it and know how to use it. But also, Sar could go all the way up to an 11 out of 10 where he's fuming and calling guys out. But you can also, hey, I need to talk to you, and sit in the office and have a real conversation. And that's an area that, if you want to be a really good coach, that's something you have to be able to do, right? You have to be able to go at the guy's neck when he needs it, but also being able to, hey man, I need to talk to you,
Pick
and
him
like
up,
put your arm around his shoulder.
And
this generation needs it a lot more. Our generation, like we're part of this generation. And it's kind of a crazy phenomenon that like usually we've talked about this. We had this kid from Florida, and he's a like high pitched voice. Got like saggy shoulders, got this mug look to him all the time, but he's a nice kid. But like you come at him sideways, he smacks his lip, he's rolling his neck around, he doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But when you like talk to him, he's not that kind of kid. But that's like his environment, how he's always what he's always been around. He's immature, So knowing how to be like, hey man, and getting his face about stuff, and he knows like I'm usually kidding when I do that.
Yeah.
But I took some times where I'd do that, and he'd get like defensive, and I'd have to be like, yo, I'm just messing with you. Like, yeah, we're good, right? I got you, coach. And then we're rolling again,
I had to pull one of our seniors, upcoming seniors, aside after the workout. I was really fortunate that I saw him coming out. And I think this is really important. So I've seen Sar do this. I've seen Dad do it. I've seen you do it. And I barked at him. And I basically questioned not his character. I questioned his thought process in that moment. Because he wasn't
more like challenging his character.
Yeah, he wasn't getting deep enough in squats, and he's a leader for us. So it's like, dude, like your reputation's on the line, our standards are on the line. There's a lot of stuff on the line right now, and you need to wake the F up right now. Yeah. And but then after, I talked to him and I was like, hey man, the reason I came at you like that is because I was hopeful that it would kind of get you in line, you get the most out of the day. But I was like, I love you to death. There's, I don't think any less of you or anything. And that part doesn't always have to even be perfect. The kid or the person you're working with just understands what you want for them is all love. It's love.
Well, so the kid wants to be held accountable. It's like, it's part of the sport. Yeah. It's like part of your human nature. Right. But a lot of the times I think the kid needs to hear why. They need to be talked to about it. Yeah. And instead of just being like, get lower, this and that. And they're just like, I'm getting low enough. But like you being able to tell them why this matters. It's not really about the squat. The squat doesn't really matter. Like you're squatting good. If this is your depth versus this, like, is that going to make you a better football player? Probably not. You're either a good football player or you're not. Yeah. Your squat doesn't really matter. But getting them to understand that and relating it, whether you relate it to how they train or how they carry themselves, or this is going to matter when you're in the fourth quarter because you don't want to push yourself, all those things. If you can make that full circle connection to them, that kid will bleed for you.
Right.
And he always will. And that's something that it seems easy for some people because that's how our brains operate. But some people will never be able to understand that because they're like, oh, this kid's an asshole. He doesn't get it. And it's like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
Are you talking at the kid or talking to him? Because I mean, and this was hard. This was I thought I had it all figured out based on how I experienced GC. I was at GC for 4 years, but my coaching career, right when I was done playing, and got fully developed as a coach. I learned my voice. I had a great mentor. Skylar Starr was amazing. And I got to college and I was like, I'm an intern, but I'm more than these interns. I'm older than them. I've trained high level athletes. Yeah. And these guys were like still wet behind the ears. Some of them were still in college. But it took a little bit more to get the guys' respect because they knew I was an intern and they were like high level recruits. And they never they didn't care about training the way I did, right? These high level athletes, they were just going through the motions.
They're kind of there because they're supposed to be there.
But you see this with a lot of young athletes. They'll train, they'll work out 3 or 4 times a day, and it's like, yeah, you're working, but what are you working for? Like, why are you doing this? And like a lot of them are like, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like, but why? Like, if you're catching 100 balls off the jugs as a receiver just to do it, like, you can do that, but
are you
you're standing
intentionally
here and catching it right here. This is your sweet spot. This is how you always catch it. But then the second the ball is low, you never catch it. Right. Are you attacking that weakness, or are you only working on what you're good at? Yeah. And it's like now you're working on catching balls, and it's making you better. It's not making you worse. Right. But like, to what extent is it making you better? Because you're not attacking your weaknesses or the things you need to work on the most. Right. And I think a lot of people will train that way and kind of just go through the motions because it's like they have to be at the lift. They're going to sweat. They have to do the weights that are on their sheet. But like, are you doing every single rep with intent? Are you training by yourself? Because there's 30 other dudes here. And some programs do this more than others where they hold guys accountable for skipping reps. And we saw this at Good Counsel. And this is something that I want to carry on when I'm a head guy at some point. And we see it. I see it at UConn now. To where the guy skips reps, he'll get held accountable for it himself. And if it keeps happening, then it'll be the position group and then the team and whatever makes it happen, whatever turns this guy into making sure that he does all the reps and is held accountable without being handheld, right? Like, we can stand by the guy.
They got to do their own.
And that's something I saw at Oregon was, and Mason Baggett was really good at this because he knew that the environment wasn't, go at the guy's neck, because it wasn't the culture that we had and it wasn't how the players responded. So what he would do was kind of babysit them, but he'd like nag them. You know what I mean? Like, and he taught me this because he'd like a guy, you'd be like, hey, it's 15 reps, not 12. He'd be like, all right. And he wouldn't do it. And then Baggett was like, I'll just follow him around. I'll just talk till I make sure he does everything. And he's like, he has that personality where he can be almost like overbearing and annoying with that shit, and it's awesome when he does it because he's really like not screwing you over, but like he's really holding you accountable, but he's not doing it in a ultra aggressive way, and like slap of the wrist kind of thing. He's like, I'll just keep
doing it in a lot of different ways, like just trying to get the most.
That's what great coaches do, because he knew that his environment he wouldn't have gotten as much rapport with the players if he was like, you suck, not that
it's too,
you shouldn't do that in general, like, unless I guess it's situational when you really go at the guy's neck. But I learned that from him, and we carried that over at Nevada. It was a certain way of, we had a running back that came from Oregon to Nevada, and he was used to that culture of like kind of going through the motions, and this hurts and I don't like doing it. I don't want to do 15. I want to do 10. Always trying to find negotiate something. He had a governor. I've heard people talk about having a governor where they're always they're limiting it. They're not going full throttle. They're like,
that an athlete is governing themselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I see kids like they look like they're running. Like, let's say we have a 5-yard sprint. It's 5 yards, and run 6 yards, then relax. Yeah. And like, I'll see them, like, they look like they got good technique. They look like they're pushing, but it's something like when you've seen a lot of reps as a coach, you can see their spirit. Mm-hmm. You can see their intent. It's so weird.
I've said this when I was, I used to say it a lot more at GC. And it's something I always think about. We can tell the difference between you running 99.9% versus 100. Is that like, it's
crazy, dude.
It's like, this is, it's a crazy thing when you're like, hey, it's 10 reps, not 8. And the kid's like, I did 10. Like, really? Because I counted 8. They're like, well, you counted wrong. I'm like, I'm a strength coach. My job is to count and watch you do stuff. Like, how are you telling me? Maybe I did count. Maybe I didn't count the initial, like, you know, when guys get down the incline, they count that as a rep. And maybe I didn't count that one, but still, that means you did 9, not 10. It's 10.
Right.
And you know, and they get all
like,
that.
So because they're straining and counting, you're just counting.
Yeah.
So how are you?
But they're straining just to follow that, use that governor, and just do enough because they don't think people are watching, right? But those are the same guys. Those guys that cut corners. It's a tale as old as time. Like, those are going to be the guys that give up when it matters most, when they need you, because it's going to be a great situation when they're needed and they want to be there, right? But then something bad happens and they're going to revert back to those habits of cutting corners and making it about them. You know, no one. It's not about you. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. I don't care if you're the head guy or you're the captain on a team. No one cares. Get better.
Right.
It's as simple as that. And you know, we kind of went off the path with. We were originally talking about like guys seeing that kind of environment, or like seeing other coaches, like the coaches train or show them. And there's a lot to that. Yeah, I think guys definitely need to see that because it's like a challenge when you see, you know, like say someone like me, like you can tell I'm a big, strong guy, but like imagine if I'm like, all right, you guys have to do this pro shuttle, and I smoke that thing and like I hit a 3.9. They're gonna be like, because I guarantee you there's gonna be skill guys that can't hit 3.9, and I'm 250, and you're 180, and I'm faster than you. Yeah. I can change direction faster.
That triggers something like I must be missing something.
Yeah, and so them seeing that and feeling that, but also constantly having that in the back pocket creates an environment for those players. And it's in my example of that, and I talked about Sar doing this, and now my current boss Tyson Brown has done that, where the guy was doing the reps, but he wasn't doing the weights on the sheet. And he went up to him because he noticed it, thought maybe he was going a little lighter early on, but he went light for all 5 sets. And he went over and he basically MF'd the kid. Rightfully so, because this is a kid that should be at the SEC level.
Right.
He's that physically gifted.
Yeah.
You see why he's not, because he's cutting corners on this, right? And he goes at his neck, and he's in the corner of the room. Not everyone can hear it. And he kind of comes back to the other side, and I see him. He's still, you know, cussing. He's pissed off. He's at 11. Like this guy is going to swing on somebody if you go near him. And I see him pick up a bar and throw it. I mean, it was like 255, and he's not a big dude. Like, that was a lot of weight for him to like pick up off the ground and hip toss cold, you know, and he's an older guy. So it's like,
which is crazy because, and I don't mean to cut you off, like some people might hear that and be like, oh, this guy, he shouldn't be in that position doing that. It's like, no. That guy just communicated so much love for somebody.
And so to continue it, it was like people that saw it were like, you know, they stood up straight. I was even like, uh-oh. You know, I was like, what did I do? Don't
am I part of the problem?
No, don't mess up. And he like storms out. He comes back, right? The lift's about done. And he like cools down a little bit. He's still a little hot because he comes over and says something to me. But I'm like, keep a little arm length, you know. This guy he's not bigger than me. You know what I mean? But he has that personality and that presence, same as Sar. Like, he's not a big person, but like you're not like, I got this guy. You know, if he comes at you, you're like, oh shit, what?
Okay, I mean, yeah.
But so when he did that, and he's still kind of fuming. Lift ends. He brings the whole team up, talks to them. He's back to 2, and he addresses that little topic, what that kid did. He doesn't really like point the kid out and like make him point at like the center of attention, but he goes over and he's like, you know, you're better than that. And, you know, we want more from you and this and that. And he makes it full circle, makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but it's not the center of it, like the main topic. He just touches on it briefly, goes over our normal, you know, make sure you swipe and eat, all those things that we have. Breaks the team down, brings the guy in the office, talks to him for like 20 seconds.
So publicly addresses, then
but he's not like you know, your waist.
Right. Yeah.
But it already happened. It was like, you don't need to. That's what a lot of people do. They'll hold on to it and they'll keep doing it and keep pressing that guy and poking him. And it's like, dude,
and then
like,
it makes the
kid gets it.
It makes the kid feel like you start creating these barriers on top of them, and then they start feeling less than, or that you are not going to ever trust them.
Yeah. And that kid, So after that happened, he talked to him briefly, and it was an open door. We could have walked in and heard it. Like, he wasn't yelling or anything. Kid came out fine, and I know what he said to me. He was like, "You're better than that. You have all this potential, and like, you're limiting yourself. You're doing it, and we're gonna get past that because you have all this potential, and we're gonna pour into you the right way, not just by like fake encouragement, but like really getting you going and holding you to the standard when you don't want to, and when you want to, we're always gonna be there for you." And that kid has been hammered to nail like crazy.
Really, after he's changed,
he was. I think we were doing like clean deadlifts, and he was staying under 315. And then the following week, he cleaned 315 for the first time and like smoked it. And I went, I had happened to be over there, and he was like, "I think we're going to do, the sheet says 305. We're going to do 305. I was like, "Put 315 on there." They're like, "Why?" And I was like, "It looks prettier. Why not do it?" You know what I mean? Like,
looks better.
It's true, you know. And the kid smokes that weight, and I think it was like part of me coming over there and like walking him through it because he's young, right? That's part of it, is he's truly immature. He won't admit it or act like he's immature, but that's really an immature mindset. And like
he's growing through that.
But he needs to have someone be like, "Hey, put 315 on. You're a dog.
Yeah.
Send it."
Dude,
and if he failed it, it would have been fine. It was like, "Hey, bro, at least you ripped it."
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, there's some times where, like, especially when I'm working with female athletes, I'll tell them like, "Hey, you're gonna go pick up another weight. You're gonna pick up something," and they're like, "You know, I can't," because I was like, "I know, but let's just do it anyway." And even if they do miss it, or like they like can't, like, you know, even if they're doing like a row and it's like too heavy for them, like I was like, "Oh, no worries. Like, we just had to make sure."
Yeah.
That's great, dude. This has been so good. I know we've been wanting to do this for a while, but I want to switch topics a little bit because you just covered so much good content. Just something a little bit fun. What is if you're doing like a heavy set of something, gotta go to a dark place, what is the number one go-to song that you're playing to hit like a max rep?
Should ask Baggett knows. That's Set It Off by Lil Boosie.
Lil Boosie.
Yeah. Got to. I mean, I like Metallica too, but Set It Off just gets
What's
me
a good
going.
Metallica song?
Enter Sandman.
Enter Sandman's.
That one has been ever since we played at Virginia Tech when I was at Maryland, and that was their entrance song. That stadium was bouncing above us. The cement stadium was, and like that I'd never seen. I'll tell people to this day, I've been to a lot of stadiums, no other environments like that.
Yeah,
like, I would love to be part of that program.
I learned that they it's not like you don't have connections there too. And right. I heard that like they get on like the earthquake scale.
Oh, they do.
Like, that's crazy.
It's a crazy environment. I mean, and that was when it was 2013, I think. Was it 13? Yeah, it was 13 to my redshirt freshman, or I redshirted the year before at Temple. So it was like my first year at Maryland. The last year we were in ACC, and they weren't like a good team. I think they ended up being 6-6 or 5-7, something like that. They barely made it to bowl if they did. But that environment, like, I'm pretty sure the kids, the students only come for that entrance,
right?
Because it's that, it's that live. I mean, it's insane.
I saw it once, and then.
But I can't even imagine being in their tunnel, Virginia Tech's tunnel. We were in the tunnel that was tucked away in the corner, waiting for that entrance to happen, and they booed us.
I gotta bring CJ on one time, dude, just to explain it.
Anyone that has played there will talk about it, and it just can't be replaced. But ever since then, Enter Sandman has always been a song for me. Like, if you put that on,
there's so many good versions of it too.
There is a lot of Metallica.
You know what my favorite Enter Sandman version is? I think it's Alicia Cara, the one that sings like "Scars to Your Beautiful." That girl, she did a cover of it. There's a bunch of people that did like Metallica covers, and so it's much slower. It's a little bit darker, a little more emo, and then
does she scream?
No, but like the build up to it, and she does a great job. I'll play it for you later, and then at the very end, they build up into the actual original piece of the music. It's like, and I'm like, oh, I just love it.
Crazy build, yeah. That's.
Now I wanted to ask you another question. The shirt that you got on right now.
Oh yeah.
Explain that really quick. How that came about and what it is.
Clean December kind of piggybacked off of Dead December. This was back in 2018. I was like fresh out of playing, still trying to kind of find my identity. And I knew I loved lifting still. Like, I was already going to be a strength coach before I really became a strength coach, and I loved hitting my cleans, and it was all about pull that bar super fast and just yank it off the floor and smack under it, and just brace hard enough that when it crashes on you, you stand up if you're strong enough. So I just rip it and smack, just get under it fast. Not a lot of technique in the between the pull and the get under it, and I hit 365. So that it was in 2018. I hit 345, 355, 365 all in one day, all PRs.
That's crazy.
But I tried all of them probably 10 times. Like I refused to be denied. It was insane. My CNS was cooked for probably 2 months.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And I think I even tried 375 after 365, but it was like I was like, all right, I'm done. But if you watch, and I've put a couple of videos of it comparing that like 365 when I do it now versus back then. I mean, it's like crashing. I mean, my knees are smacking on themselves. My feet are all over. Like it looks awful. It looks like it hurts a lot, and it did because my knees don't feel the same. After that time, around the springtime, or that was in the spring, in the summer of 2018, I was hitting cleans and I hit 345. And when I caught it, I missed it, and this arm got out. This one got stuck on my thigh, and these knuckles touched the back of my wrist because the bar was there and I couldn't get it out. And I had torn ligaments in this wrist playing. So I basically re-injured the wrist, and it was like the most painful thing I've ever been through. Yeah. And at that point, it was like, all right, I'm strong as hell, but my technique sucks. I need to get better at technique. And Zach's stiff. No, I still can't say Zach.
Our friend Zach.
Zach S. Stitnoff.
You do a better job than me.
No one wants.
He's gonna call you up after this and be like, "What's your problem?"
He was big on technique, and he kind of helped.
Dude, that dude can throw around weight.
Yeah, but he helped me see the purpose of technique and like refining it, and that's where the thought of like December, we were doing December. I was like, well, I kind of like the idea of doing cleans, and like there's squat toe December. Why don't we do clean December? We're gonna do cleans every day for the month of December. And I'll tell you what, that program in 2018 was absolutely brutal because I didn't know what I was doing programming wise, and it's refined over the years. I still write programming that originated at Good Counsel, GC Strength, but you run their page, and it's crazy how it's evolved, and you've branched it into the athletes to teach them. And ideally, I think the next step, and we kind of went this way this year, where you and SAR had a program for the athletes and for you guys.
It was watered down, and
I had a program more for like higher level, more experienced people. And I think that'd be the ideal thing. I was thinking was having like a intermediate or beginner, intermediate, and an expert level program, so everyone can really do it. Because it is, regardless of which one you do, it's taxing. Your traps are smoked.
Taxing, but it's so helpful. I got a little testimony. So one of our former students, he just graduated, he's an alum, John Jolly, going to play golf at
John's been ripping them.
Dude, man. So this kid, man, like 3 years ago was scrawny, and I remember, but he just got really into the lifting and then Olympic lifting. Like this dude, he's probably 195. Before clean December, he got himself up to 185, 190, and he was in my strength class 2 times. And great job, like doing a really good job. Physique looked totally different now. And so he did clean December. He had a bet with his dad that he was going to hit 225. He went from 190 to 215. That was after a month.
That's crazy.
So crazy. Then a month later after that, where football teams coming in, they're lifting, and he's like on rack 8. You remember rack 8? It's just like towards the back of the door. It's like not the most
I think I've seen
popular.
The video.
Yeah, it's not the most popular part. Dude just kept going. He wasn't testing. We were just like, bro, just keep going. Like, forget whatever you had to do. Those are the best days.
Those are the best days when you don't have a plan to
Kid cleaned 245.
That's insane.
And like, he walked in one day and he was lifting with the football team. This was later. And like one of the football kids, strong kid, great kid, comes in and he's like, yo, Coach Perry. He's like, this dude can clean. And I was just like, I know, bro. And so, but that was after the program.
And we want to give John, right? John all the credit because he did it. He was the one cleaning the bar. But remember, it's the coaching that matters. we
take our thunder.
We talk about that all the time when it's like our guys are running fast. It's like it's all the coaching. It's not their physical ability to run fast. We're coaching them really well. It's us. They wouldn't be here if it weren't for us. That's the arrogance of being a coach. But yeah, that Clean December program. I mean, it started And it was more so just because like the love of cleans. But you take someone like John, that month of doing cleans did something to him. And it's not, most people are strong enough to hit weights. That's why I was able to hit that 365 after maxing out 345, 355 multiple times. And I was strong enough to do it, but I couldn't hit 365 again. I hit that in 2018, got hurt that summer, and I didn't hit 365 again until 21 when I was at Oregon. But that was because I had a fear factor, because all I would think about when I came up off the ground was my wrist. And it took me a really long time to get past that. Anytime I got near 345, I was way stronger than that weight. I just couldn't put it all together. I had a block. Someone was governing, and the repetition. I'll tell you why clean December is important, because it is going to be taxing. You are ripping that bar off the ground. You're shrugging. Your legs are being smoked every day. And we've tailored the program to have waves in the week, so you're not always, your CNS isn't getting completely cooked the whole time, and you undulate it. But that repetition is what really matters, because you might be strong enough to hit. Like I was always strong enough to hit 4 plates. Like I could pull 4 plates off the ground.
Dude, I love watching
like
that.
crazy, and I was always my front squat is 545. That's 145 pounds or 140 pounds more than my clean max. So basically, if I can get under anything under 5 plates, I should be able to stand up with it, no problem, because my front squat is so strong.
Right.
But just because I'm strong enough to pull it and strong enough to squat it up doesn't mean I can put it all together without the technique and repetition. So that's where clean December becomes really important, is that constant repetition. And at the end, you might not hit a PR, and that some of that might be because of how the weeks were tailored, or it is during Christmas, so a lot of people will Zach will always try to hit a PR before Christmas, because he's like, I'm not going to hit that on the 30th when PR day is. And I've done that where I've like hit a PR earlier in the month, because sometimes
maybe we should look into like almost like starting clean December, like almost right before December,
a week before.
Like that might actually not be a bad idea, because then it's like clean December.
Well,
you're doing it right around like Christmas time, which is regardless of like a lot of people will take off those days.
I liked Zach. Zach has always helped me program clean December. I did 18, 19, 20. For the most part, it was me. And I think he did, what was the last one? 23, right? And I did 22. He did 23. Sorry, 22. And I did 23 this past year. But he was always helping facilitate and bouncing ideas for me. And his thought process when he wrote it in 22 was every Friday is kind of a max out day. That way, like, you can kind of catch all. And some days you have it, some days you don't. And that's kind of the beauty of cleans. Like for that guy John, he probably hit 245, and now he wants 250. And he might hit 250 next week, or he might not hit it for 2 years. Like I hit 365 in 2018. It took me 4 years to get it again.
Damn.
And now, but just like you were talking about, I went in and trained that one this past December. I didn't even finish clean December because of traveling, of coming from the West Coast and all that. But I was like, I can smack 365, no problem. And I did.
Dude.
My warm up was,
the kids were like,
I need to do this as a reel, because I think it's pretty impressive, because I really don't need to do 135, but I do. So like I warm up with the bar, do barbell movements, and then usually I put a plate on just to put a plate on and rep it a couple times, and then I go right to 225, hit a couple times, and if I'm still feeling a little off, I'll put 275 on. But if my piss is hot, I'm putting 3 plates on right away. And that's my warm up. 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates. And then I'll go, and that's what I did that day, because I was like, I don't feel that good, but I'm angry and my timing's pretty good. I hit 315, and I think I hit 345 and then 365, and I was done. I did 2 work sets. And then I went and squatted. And that's
something you taught me recently, was feeling your body out. Dude, that was game changer.
And knowing when and Sar told me this for a long time, and I wouldn't listen to him. Because he'd see me come up with the ball, you stop after the clean pull and don't even get under it. And he'd be like, you're just wasting time. Like, just stop. And I wouldn't get it, and I just spend 20 minutes doing clean pulls, basically, being angry and doing it, And I've learned to, 2 misses and I'm out. I'm done. It's not happening, and it's like, it's made me very specific in like my thought process and like my build up, but also my confidence. And that's kind of,
have that mentality. Like, it's just like not one of those days. Like I'm gonna be here. Like,
but that's more of like, that's good for people that are cleaning out of like recreation, not for like for an athlete. We're going to do 4 sets of clean, and then we'll stop. Maybe you do a 5th set, it's feeling good, but we're not going to keep trying,
Right.
Because we've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
When we were training as coaches, we could clean
You can do it however.
You can just keep going if you really wanted to.
Because we want those kids to be football players. Like you're there to play football.
Your job isn't to clean. Like someone like that kid John who golfs and doesn't.
Like he does the Olympic stuff as a hobby.
Yeah, and that's awesome because it doesn't really affect the sport, and guys can do that. I had 2 players at Nevada that were raised or brought up by an Olympic lifter, so they were phenomenal at their Olympic lifts, and they liked doing them when we did them, but they weren't like really doing them outside because they knew like this isn't going to make me a better football player. Right. Like you are. The scientific part of it is like rate of force development and acceleration. We talk about accelerating, decelerating the bar, and all that stuff, but like. Does that make you a better football player? No. Like it does show your power, but that power might not translate on the field.
You can't even apply it because
But it is fun to really like bridge that gap to where they focus on their technique because that part is the like strenuous challenge to like be technical when you're fatigued. It works numbers for you. Like it's not going to make you a better football player, but it will make you a better athlete and how you trained and all those things. There's a number of like attributes you can gain from them, and I actually thought about. So then this is a little more for people that want to be better at their cleans. If you want to be better at your cleans, you should front squat a shit ton more than you can clean, and hit your clean pulls, clean deadlifts, anything not the actual full movement at the end of your lift when you're most fatigued. Because you want to get at that point you're kind of like on autopilot, and that's when you need to hit your technique and your positions the most.
I'm gonna start doing that.
You should. I mean,
that's crazy. Okay.
I did a program, or it was a modified version with Wes Bordelon, who's at Sanford now, the head guy at Sanford University. And he started out down in Louisiana. He was worked with a guy named Gail Hatch, who's a legendary Olympic weightlifting coach, and he had the Hatch program. And the workouts were called Brutal Saturdays or Brutal Fridays. Me and Wes would do them, a version of it on Saturday or Friday. I can't remember what they called it and we did it on Friday and Saturday, but it was brutal one of those days. But it was a clean and jerk segment 1, where it was clean and jerk. It was like 1 clean, 1 jerk until you're 90%. And if you kept hitting it, you could go up. It was like 6 sets. And then segment 2 was 2 cleans, 3 jerks. And then 3 cleans, 2 jerks, alternating sets for 6 sets. Brutal. Murder you. Listen, that's just the beginning. We go in, you'd hit some snatches, like 5 sets of 2 on snatch. And then you do below the knee clean pulls, 3 sets of 5. And then you'd hit clean deadlift, 3 sets of 5. And then you'd back squat for an RM. And it was treacherous. It was awesome though, because we were gassed by the times we hit those clean pulls. And the below knee clean pulls is when you take it to here and you go here, clean pull, and you just hold on to it for dear life. And that's like smoking your positions, your back, everything's hurting. Your face is hurting from it. And
that's crazy.
That just makes you have to be technical.
Yeah.
And it can be, you can like lighten the weight to be more technical, but like you really should be at a good percentage. Like we got guys, we're doing clean deadlifts at UConn right now, and guys are like, "Oh, what weight should I do?" And when Tyson had talked to us about it, his thought process was, "We'll go a little bit lighter on their percentages because we need to work on form. They haven't done this deadlift variation that much." And like he was like, "We probably should have gone up after we had done it a couple of times." But I was talking to one of our running backs, and he was like, "Man, I really want to hit 315." It's like, all right, well, you better do that for your clean pulls. And you're like, damn, really? Like, well, if you can do it now when you're fatigued, you're gonna smoke it when you pull it off the ground for a clean.
Right.
But you got to get used to that feeling. It's that repetition. It's that feeling. Like you might be strong enough. Your max might be, what is it, like 295?
For cleans?
Yeah.
Most I've ever done is 285. I have put 295 on the bar.
So like 285. If you haven't cleaned in a while, you're probably still strong enough to do 285. But if you haven't done it in a while and you put it on the bar and you feel it in your hands, it's going to feel different.
Yeah.
Versus if you did 275, worked up to 275 for 3 weeks, and then you jumped to 285, and maybe you went
I've been
265,
doing a lot
285,
more work head.
it would be like the accumulation of like the feeling and like the repetition would do numbers for you.
Yeah, well, dude, it's going to be awesome this year. You know, we'll be putting stuff out, working together to get that content out. But Clean December 2024 is going to be a good one, and you know, you can get in on the action. There'll be shirts and all that stuff. There's an Instagram page. Follow that. We'll put that up in the description. But dude, this has been awesome. So happy we've been able to do this because I know we've wanted to.
We didn't talk about.
Yeah, we'll get into some more because we'll have to do another one. We'll have to do another one because like we talked about so much good stuff, but we didn't even get into a lot of the other stuff. NEXxT Steps Fitness, Drew Stefanelli, my good-looking brother. What's up, everybody? I'm Perry Stefanelli, and this is
Oh,
this is Drew Stefanelli. He doesn't talk a lot.